Hello everyone! Sorry this video is a little bit late. I've been busy the past couple days, but we do have it out now. I'll try not to be late for the next one. Anyways, part 3 of Academy, the thrilling conclusion to the Academy storyline, and with this event we also get Rorona and Aaron on the banner, so I'm going to go over those units for you today. We'll also go over all of the new recipes and a couple of other things with the update. So as far as the update goes, one thing we have with this update that's pretty important is the beginning of the revival events. So if you come to your event screen here, click on revival, you can access the early events. So Sophie and Salberg were the first 2 events in the game. Sophie doesn't have any recipes, but Salberg does. If you weren't playing back then, you can unlock the event and you'll be able to, do all the score battles, get the new recipes, read the story, and there's also emblems for them as well for, clearing the EX battles, so pretty cool. If you've run out of materials, like I have run out of, which one was it? Yeah, I have run out of these rocks. I only have 5 left. If you run out of the materials, you can get them again. Falberg has some good recipes like the steel staff, which is great for supporters, so make sure to do these. To unlock them, you just need a memory key, which you can buy from the shiny coin shop. There's also one in the event shop for part 3 of Academy. The EX battles here are actually pretty hard. They're harder than the EX battles we've had recently with Academy, especially the Sophie one. I do have a clear from JP on my other channel that I'll link in the description for the Sophie EX 2 or 3, I don't remember. It's pretty difficult. It's with a New Year Mari team. I think it's pretty neat. There's a lot of viable strategies for it, but it is decently difficult content, so if you're struggling on it, don't feel bad. It's pretty hard. But yeah, they will continue adding more of these. Up to summer, where we are right now on JP, the most recent revival event was Christmas. So that's as far as we're up to, like a few months later on JP. So they come out like once a month or so. It'll be another batch of 2, and eventually we'll get caught up and you'll be able to get all the recipes you missed if you started late or whatever. So very, very cool. All right, and let us go to the gacha. So we have Rorona, Aaron, and a memoria. Go over the memoria first. This memoria is fantastic. It's very, very good. And the reason why it's very, very good is it's kind of like a better time to study, especially for Roman tournament. So it has the same stats, 11% speed, defensive stat line, really solid, but its effect is basically almost twice as strong as time to study, except it's limited to burst skill damage. So 26% burst skill damage as opposed to 15% skill damage. Very, very good for bursts, especially for Roman tournament. This is a very strong memoria for Roman tournament. So if you've missed a lot of the other good memoria, like Masterpiece or the one with the fish or whatever, this one will be very, very nice to have. So really strong memoria here. And it does, increase the value of this banner quite a bit. As far as the characters go, first we're going to start with Aaron. And Aaron is yet another air attacker. Resna was an area air attacker, and Aaron is a single target. Now, she is a little bit gimmicky. She is very reminiscent of Princess Meru from a long time ago. She has a very similar kit in which she's a very fast attacker, right? She's a very fast, low damage attacker, which, just like Princess Meru, that's not a very potent archetype in this game, right? Having faster, lower damage attacks just means you're basically getting less value out of your buffs and debuffs a lot of the time. So unless you're like, one-shotting everything, then that's not really going to be very strong. But if you're able to one-shot everything anyways, you may as well just one-shot everything with an area attacker like Izana, right? So the archetype just isn't very good in this game. However, she is still a significantly better character than the aforementioned Princess Meru. She does have a little bit of payoff. She is able to ramp up her damage decently, and part of the reason for that is her passive. So she has this passive when she gets a panel or receives healing. she will boost her magic attack by 10%, capping out at 100%. So doubling her magic attack is very, very strong. And if you do get her ramped up, that does make up for the lower damage on her skills. Mostly, it's a really, really good passive. And yeah, let's just go over her skills. Her skill 1 is a buff for herself for a single turn, just 35% skill damage. It's decent if you have to use skill 1. Of course, it's 75 wait time because she is fast. But overall, you're probably not running damage buffet on her, so it's just 35% skill damage for using the skill. It can be nice, but it's not like super amazing, but it's solid. Then her skill 2, it's 175 wait time. Like I said, she's a fast character with 220% damage rate on a single target ability. That's really bad. However, when attacking a weakness, she does boost the damage by 50%, and 330% on the damage rate is a bit more acceptable, especially if you have her magic attack ramped up. Her skill 2 will be hitting quite hard. And then for her burst, just like Maru's burst, it's a very low damage rate of 370% with 150 wait time. She also boosts her speed by 50% for one turn, which will make her next turn after the burst super, super fast, and also gives her a magic attack buff for 3 turns, which is not bad. This kind of synergizes with Academy Rorona, which I'll go into later, but basically Rorona makes burst panels, and you definitely want to get Erin's burst out quickly to get this buff and maybe even use it multiple times on her, so good synergy there. This buff can obviously stack a few times if you're bursting every single turn. That's not realistic, but something to keep in mind. 3 turns is a pretty good amount of time for a buff, right? However, it is after attacking, so the first burst isn't going to get any boost from this, but you know, that's fine. But overall, it's still hard to overcome like a damage rate this low on the ability. So low hits, very fast. It also, you know, messes up the speed tuning on your timeline quite a bit when your characters are like interrupting turns. Like normally your characters go one after the other, that order doesn't get interrupted, and you set up your team to best take advantage of buffs and debuffs with that specific turn order. And when you have a character that's super fast, she's just weaving in and out through the characters in your party, dropping her buffs, dropping the enemy's debuffs, not really capitalizing on a lot of the powerful interactions and synergies that are available in the game. So while she's, you know, a pretty okay single target attacker, she's not amazing, she's just decent, right? That's basically how she is. She's not bad, but she's not really meta or anything. She's not widely used, so. But she is decent. And then her leader skill boosts quiet character skill damage by 74% when attacking a weakness. This is of course fantastic if she's actually attacking a weakness. Unfortunately, it's not really good for anyone else. It hits 2 breakers and Odelia in this group, so it's a pretty bad leader skill in general, but it works for herself, so, you know, if you have her on the team, it'll still be good, right? So, yeah, that's Erin. She is just okay, basically. I don't think she's amazing or anything. Obviously, she has a big weakness in not having crit. Characters like Roseval are going to end up being a lot stronger while still being quite fast and getting extra turns, so yeah, she just doesn't really have a spot in the meta. And now we move on to Rorona, who is yet another strike supporter. She is, I believe, the 4th strike supporter, which is pretty good. It means she has a lot of gear to support her, and she creates gear for other good units like Flock and whatever. I'll go over the recipes later. They're pretty dang good. But yeah, basically, Rorona's gimmick is they have finally given us a character that creates burst panels. So she will convert the panel of the next ally in the timeline into a burst panel. So, you know, if she's going last on your team, the next turn is going to be a burst panel. Basically, you're going to get the burst panel on turn 6, your turn 6, so for the first turn. But yeah, pretty cool. She also boosts all her skill damage by 24%, which is pretty good. You definitely want to run damage buffet on her. Very solid amount of skill damage here, like 60% with the full traits. But yeah, what to say about this skill? Because this is the entire reason you use this character, right? burst panel generation sounds really strong. In practice, it's a little difficult to use, and the reason behind that is her 275 wait time. And if you're not aware, most characters have a wait time of 200 on their skill 2, and the starting order on the timeline isn't solely determined by speed, it's also determined by this wait time. So it's very difficult to make her go not last, right? And so because of that, it's kind of difficult to speed tune your party in a way to make Rorona's burst useful, right? So, or Rorona's skill 2 useful, to give that burst, to make that burst useful, right? Like, if you're running an Izana team, you know, Izana's probably going last on your team, but she can't go slower than Rorona. So you're not going to be able to create a burst on Izana very easily, even on turn 2 to finish off your single target. And obviously, for characters like Academy Rorona, like your generic, like AoE characters that are clearing things, their bursts are usually worse than their skill 2s anyways. Like Izana and Resin don't really care about her. For Roseval, she's pretty good. If your Roseval goes first, you can guarantee that the burst panel will hit Roseval, because Roseval will be going 6th after that. Or you can use Roseval's skill 1 to put her ahead of everyone else to make sure she goes right after Rorona. So she's pretty good for securing a burst on Roseval's second turn. That's pretty nice. I don't know how that works out with initiative. I haven't looked into it too much. But yeah, pretty nice. Not bad. But overall, honestly, using her for burst panel generation is just oftentimes less effective than using another supporter or anyone else. I mean, she still gives a good amount of damage, so like she'll still be fine. It's just less useful than you might expect, creating the burst panels. It's still good. Where she really shines is in Roman Tournament, and as soon as we're done going over the character, I will talk about that more, because there's a lot to cover. Her other skills, her skill 1's pretty good. It's a 20% heal to the ally with lowest HP. Pretty good skill 1, honestly. That's a pretty solid amount of healing. Probably to your defender that needs it most. Not bad. And then for her burst hits all enemies, and after attacking, it reduces all of the target's resistances by 25% for 2 attacks, then also gives, you know, your highest physical attack ally a 50% physical attack boost. This is a fantastic burst skill. You don't really feel bad about using this. Usually it's stronger or just as good as generating a burst with her skill 2, and of course it only has 200 wait time, so it can be good for certain situations just because of that as well. But yeah, really good burst from her. This will increase your damage by a lot. It's very similar to, you know, someone like Valentine's that's got on her burst, and if you ever use that burst, it's super strong, but this one doesn't require breaking, so really, really nice burst here. Then her passive is skill damage by 20% for all allies. Once again, the scales with damage buffet, just really, really good passive. So even outside of the burst generation from her skill 2, her kit's really solid. Like even without the burst generation, her kit would be pretty decent. Like if this was a heal instead with a normal wait time. The only problem is that the 275 wait time, once again, it's hard to tune around, right? It's hard to use. She'll be super slow. It's hard to make it consistently land on the character you want it to, right? So it's pretty rough. But it's still pretty cool. It's much needed utility in the game. Having the option to use this, to have this character available to you to create this burst panels will just, you know, increase the amount of things you can do in certain battles. So even if oftentimes it's not going to be worth it compared to just running a normal strat, especially if you're using area characters like Academy Rorona or Izana, it's still a very powerful ability and it's nice to have those options available. She is a very solid supporter for sure. And then her leader skill is for Resleriana characters. They get skill damage and stun damage, 50%. Very good leader skills if you have, you know, a Resleriana focused team like Academy Rorona and Academy Ryza. They absolutely love this leader skill. It's pretty good. So yeah, overall, very strong character. Now, let's talk a little bit about Roman Tournament like I mentioned earlier. A lot of the top scoring strategies for a lot of the Roman tournaments, like I believe like Firebolt, Ice Strike, or sorry, Firebolt, Strike, Slash, Stab maybe. Maybe those 5, I'm not completely sure. At the top end, I'll use her. She's especially good with Rosevile to get even more bursts, to get more turns on Rosevile. Like, she just creates bursts. It's really good for Roman Tournament. It's 40 turns to basically do as much damage as you can do, and making more bursts on a character like Rosevile, whose damage scales with bursts really, really well, you know, can improve your damage significantly, like by millions, right? On top of just being a solid character in general, so pretty good for Roman Tournament. However, there's a little bit of a catch here, and that's the Roman Tournament meta on JP is changing very quickly. So you may or may not know, but damage in this game, currently on global, is capped at 10 million. It's 9,999,999. That is your damage cap. And at the top end of Roman Tournament, strategies are based around avoiding hitting this damage cap and spreading damage out a bit more. Because if you're going way over the damage cap, like hitting for 20 million, you just lose 10 million damage, right? So it's better to get a higher number of like mid-sized bursts than just a couple really large bursts. However, that damage cap has either been removed or I think maybe raised to 100 million on JP. And obviously 100 million damage is absurd to hit, right? So the meta changes a little bit to where for some tournaments, it's better to stack all of your damage into a couple of really, really powerful bursts. A good example of this is the recent Bolt tournament on JP, where people were hitting scores of over 200 million at the top because they did a burst with Izana that hit for 100 million damage, and then another one that hit for 50 million damage. And in these cases, Rorona is completely worthless, right? If you can get the timeline set up to hit a burst like that, then Rorona creating extra bursts isn't really increasing your damage significantly. You'd rather have a better character in the party. Also, the party slots are a lot more competitive with characters like Onsen Claudia, Bride Heidi, Wilbell, like so many really good supporters that we have nowadays on JP that it's hard to commit a team slot to Academy Rorona. So while there's a lot of tournament strats where she is very strong right now, it's easy to see a future where she ends up getting phased out in favor of other options that provide more like single burst damage, right? So yeah, she's in a bit of an awkward spot. We'll have to see how the meta shakes out going forward. We've only had one tournament on JP with the new damage cap, so like, or without damage cap. I don't know if it's uncapped or not. I haven't seen any screenshots and I can't hit those numbers myself. I should look that up. But yeah, it's hard to say going forward. If you're worried about Roman Tournament, it's possible that going forward she isn't as must-have as she is right now, once they remove the damage cap, but maybe she'll still just be really good for Rosevile. We'll just have to see. We've only had one tournament with, you know, the new damage cap on JP, so it's just really hard to tell. But yeah, that's basically my little warning. She's a really solid character, good to have, but she may be falling out of favor in the meta. She's not necessarily going to be permanently useful, so. But this utility is still always nice to have when it matters, so. Still a very good character. Alright, and let's just go through the recipes real quick. We have another set of fantastic new recipes. And first up, we have Rorona's weapon, the Class President's Cane. While equipped to a supporter, after using a skill, boost burst skill damage of the next ally in turn order by 12% for one turn. This is the biggest damage buff we have on a supporter weapon so far. 12% is very high. The Angel Staff is only 5%. However, it's very limited in usefulness. It only affects the next ally in the timeline, and it's only burst skill damage. So there are cases where this item is useful. Obviously, it's good for Rorona's skill 2. It's made for her, you know, because you're likely going to be bursting on the next ally in the timeline when you use her skill 2, right? So it's good for her. And outside of that, it's pretty niche. I've used it for Bolt tournament for Claudia. There's cases where it's usable. It's really good when it's usable, but it's not like generically really good, right? So it's a little weird. But still a very good item. And then we have her armor, the class president's uniform. While equipped to support her with strike affinity, boosts the potency of all allies' effect received from boost type panels by 9%. This effect is not good. 9% on a blue panel is like, it's less than 4% skill damage. And you have to actually get the blue panel. If you have improved blue panels, then it's still like almost 9% skill damage, which is very decent. That is actually pretty decent. If you're getting those improved boost panels on your Rorona team, you are probably not. So I don't really recommend making this item. There are better options for strike for sure. Are there? Maybe not. Maybe it's just Scholar Coat. I don't know. This item's not very good though. Then we have the Class President's Ribbon, and this accessory is fantastic. While equipped to support her with strike affinity, boosts all allies' physical attack by 6%. The other strike accessory we have is 7% crit damage. Well, that one scales with buff A, and this one doesn't. It just kind of depends on your setup, which one is better. But they're both very good. You'll just have to test the damage yourself. They're pretty competitive with each other. The only problem with this one being that it doesn't scale with damage buff A, but it's pretty nice. Of course, we have a lot of strike supporters like Flock and Umpel, and even Nady, so this is a good item for all of them, especially if you need this 12 speed. It's very good. It's nice having different options at different speed levels that are all really good, so very solid accessory here. Then we have some usable items. The prototype lift is a one-use air damage all enemy attack item for 260%. This is very good for certain floor in the air tower that will be coming in the future, and outside of that it's basically worthless. But this item will have a use in the future, so it's good just because of that. Very nice. Then we have the Student Support Energy Drink. Like the jelly from last time, this one creates panels. This one creates critical panels. It's really, really nice. We finally have an item that can create guaranteed crits just on its own. You don't have to suffer through using soup anymore for most things. It will only create panels, so you'll only get the crit on like one turn with your attacker, but usually that's more than enough. Just having the crit guaranteed is really, really helpful, especially for characters like Izana if you don't have Snow-Rana, right? This item's really, really nice as a replacement for Rorona or Logi, or even Bolt Resna if you don't have those characters. So really, really, really good item here. It also makes a lot of budget strats for certain content a lot nicer to do, because if you don't have any of these crit supporters, you're just using soup. You need to use soup to take advantage of the crit damage trait. This item just makes it so much easier, so much nicer. And if you're still struggling with Air Tower, I highly recommend using this. It will make everything a lot easier. I will be coming out with a video on that in a couple of days. I was just waiting for this item because it does make everything so much nicer. So yeah, very good item there. Then we have the Lofty Longsword. This is a weapon intended for Aaron. Boosts skill damage by 17% when attacking a target's air weakness. So only for air characters on attacking weakness. 17% skill damage is pretty good, but for single target characters like Aaron, it's going to be worse than the Tome from Air Tower, which is just like, it was like 28% single target damage or something. And then on area characters like Resna, it's just going to be worse than her weapon that gives, you know, absurd amounts of crit damage. So this weapon doesn't really have much of a place in the game, in the meta. It's not very good, but it's just outclassed by other options, so don't super recommend making this. Then we have the Lofty Uniform. While equipped to a character with air affinity, boosts own magic attack by 11% for one turn, receiving HP recovery. Now, this sounds good, right? It sounds really good. 11% magic attack is a lot, and I think they left it out on global, if I remember right. Let me go check real quick, but I believe on JP this says something about not being able to stack. And did they leave that out on global? Because I'm pretty sure I remember that. Yes, yes they did. So that's rather unfortunate. If we look here, we have the same item. Translate right here. This cannot be stacked, so I'm gonna have to report that to them. Very important that this buff can't be stacked, otherwise this would be crazy, right? Not sure how they managed to leave that out. This would be absolutely crazy if you could stack it multiple times, giving like, you could get up to like 50% magic attack. Don't worry, it's not that good. It's not broken. Yeah, this effect can't be stacked. So it's not a good item. And the reason it's not a good item actually isn't that, because it's pretty decent, but Air has access to the colorless robe, which is 23% received buff effect, and that is going to be your best in slot armor for any air attacker forever. Like, that effect is just too strong. So yeah, no reason to use this when the colorless robe is available. And then we also have the lofty pocket mirror. While equipped to an attacker with air affinity, boosts skill damage by 7% when using panels. This item, it's okay. It takes a while to ramp up, which is kind of bad. If you're using buffet on your character, it will ramp up pretty quickly. And it does give a lot of damage. However, the Puni Charm gives a pretty similar amount of damage, and it doesn't have a cap on it. It just has lower speed, so if you need the speed, this item's good. Like, they're pretty similar. I think for buffet setups, the Puni Charm is significantly better. For non-buffet setups, then they're pretty even, and this one, you know, ramps up to be better, so it just sort of depends. But it's a really, really solid attacker accessory for air, and it's not conditional. You just have to get the panels, which can definitely still be a problem. So it is okay. I think in most situations I prefer the Puni Charm though. So then we have the student support balanced meal. It's just another AoE healing that also heals the lowest HP ally, so it's a bit more of a balanced healing bell. If you're still using healing bells, this can sometimes be better, sometimes worse. It just sort of depends. Then we have the Monster Gathering Trap. Now this item is crazy. This one is super, super good. If you've ever done a paralysis or poison floor in the tower, now we have an item that just makes them so much easier. Very high chance means it will basically always hit, as opposed to the lightning crystal from before, which, you know, would miss sometimes. And it does paralysis and poison, so it's good for paralysis floors and poison floors. Just a very strong item in general. Very nice that they finally gave this to us. Don't sleep on this, especially if you're still trying to clear Affinity Tower. So really, really, really good item here. Glad we have it. And then we have the final set items. The Immaculate set with the broom, dress, and cloth. Like always, the armor and accessory do not have any effects on them. It's based on the set bonus from the broom, which while you have all three of them equipped, it boosts burst skill damage by 15% when using a burst panel, capping at 75%. This is unbelievably terrible. I think it would be usable if they just got rid of the ramping part of it. Like, you get 15% when using the burst for your next burst, and then if you use like 5 bursts, you finally get to the max of 75%. It's just simply abysmal. It should have just given 75% burst skill damage or something, and it's actually kind of usable at that point. It's not great, but it's kind of usable at that point. This is just completely terrible. Yeah. Anyways, that is all the recipes. I hope that was useful. Let's just get to the wishes. I was originally planning on spending gems on this banner, but now I think I kind of won't. I'm just not really feeling it anymore. I do want Rorona to use her, but overall, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. With the way that the meta is going on JP, I'm just kind of like, I could leave her, I could skip her. So, we'll see. I would still be very happy to get her from the tickets. Maybe I'll do like one pull with gems. But we have some good banners coming up. I think the most important of which are the next one, which is Onsen Claudia. And then after that, we also have Bride, Izana, and Heidi at some point. Like a few banners later. So the Bride banner might be what I save gems for. We'll see. Alright, one wink from Resna. Probably not much in here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It's still possible to get a super late fake out, but usually you see some tells for it a little bit earlier. But doesn't look like we're getting anything from this pull. That's fine. We got Ryza from our last set of tickets. Like, even if this is full duds, can't really complain. Oh god, it's Tau. Oh wow, another shoot for the sky. I think that's like my 4th one. That's actually pretty funny. Not a bad memoria to have. Slash skill damage. It's okay. There's a lot of other memoria I would rather have though. Like Masterpiece, that one would be really nice. Alright, once again, kinda nothing, huh? Yep, still nothing. Alright, well that's fine. We got Ryza last time, like... You know, we'll do one pull with gems, yeah. A singular wish with gems. Because this is still a good banner with a good memoria. Oh look, we did get a 3-star at least. Probably not a pickup, but this is guaranteed 3-star. That's nice. There's still a lot of characters I'm missing. Hopefully it is not another Ompel. For some reason I keep pulling Ompel on this account. I have like 4 now, but I haven't gotten a single Ompel on JP. Very, very sad. Alright, what do we get? That's Claudia, right? Should be Claudia. Not bad. I don't really use Claudia much, and especially without New Year's Mari, there's not a ton of use for her, but she's cute. Glad to have a new character. Alright. Not terrible. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope this video was helpful. Once again, sorry it was so late. Just been busy. But yeah, I probably have to also get a few more videos out this week. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next one, and hope you have good luck with your pulls. Hope you all enjoyed the conclusion to the Academy story. And yeah, see you later. Bye-bye.